Hey guys, this is Adam, and I'm here with Coach Kat Peters. And
Hello.
today we are going to talk about emotional awareness. Probably one of my favorite topics
Mine
because
too.
we could go very, very far with this one in a lot of scenarios. This runs into client retention too. Like clients that are more emotionally aware do a better job at staying on track, and or a better job just staying in communication with you on what they emotionally realize. Hey, I need this, or I might need more help with this. So, to go into this, let's talk about what emotional awareness is. So, it's the ability to recognize that the emotion's even there in the first place, taking a step back and realizing what that is and what it's stemming from. And then your ability to regulate those emotions and, regulate how you respond to them, which is a huge, huge part. So, for instance, I think my first time I really saw like lack of emotional intelligence or awareness from a competitor. Wasn't one of my competitors, but they got fifth place at their show. And when he got off stage, he launched his trophy across the room and like shattered. And I was like, that's a lack of emotional awareness for sure. So things as bad as that happen, or sometimes we can be in the stinking thinking mode and say, oh, there's no way my coach would do that for me versus just asking. Or, maybe this isn't my coach wouldn't put me on a meal plan. I don't like macros anymore. And instead of asking, you go with Joe Blow Coach Online that does, a $30 meal plan every month or whatever. So, emotional awareness can be a really big part of steering your career in the right direction. Because if you're able to recognize that emotion, communicate it, sit with it, you'll be a much better communicator and you'll likely have less roadblocks and just sidetracks in your career.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think emotional awareness, well, not even I think, I know, um, it really plays a huge role in not only like fitness in general, but of course competing. Because, I mean, let's be real, right? It's common for competitors to sometimes overdo it, right? With food. Like sometimes we end up walking down the road. You had a bad day, you're real hungry, it's deep into prep, and you go on a bender, right? And a lot of that has to do with maybe not having that emotional awareness in that moment or like in general. Because if you do have that emotional awareness, and you see this a lot with like people that emotionally eat, and this is not to say that like as human beings, like none of us have these sessions where we're going to just emotionally overindulge in food, because that is a coping skill. Not the best one, there's a lot of shame and stuff that comes with that after the fact sometimes, but it is still a coping skill. But when you have that emotional awareness, before you get into that mode of overindulging or, kind of spiraling, going on a bender, you can kind of, I think, and it takes practice, talk yourself off the ledge. I actually was in this situation the other day. I was having a not so great day, didn't get enough sleep. I was, feeling kind of junky, and uncovered the stash of Oreos that I have in my freezer, because, you got to keep the like special limited edition ones fresh, right? And I thought to myself as I was sitting there upset, like, man, it would, those Oreos sound so good. I wasn't hungry. I knew I wasn't hungry. But as I was kind of sitting there with my feelings, because it's kind of the trick, right? Sit with your feelings. Um, I realized that the Oreos weren't, like I said, I wasn't hungry. The Oreos were just a quick fix that I wanted to escape from the feelings that I was feeling, because I was very uncomfortable with, being unhappy in that moment, which is what happens, right? Being sad, being angry, those are uncomfortable emotions. And so a lot of the times people will turn to food to try to momentarily get that little hit of like pleasure and happiness to escape that feeling. But then what happens later? You go, oh man, my dog wants to chime in by getting in the room. So let's ignore the scratching. But, a lot of the times we try to do that, right? But there's a feeling of shame that might come after the fact, especially if, you're on prep or you're pursuing a weight loss goal or something like that, and you didn't hit your macros. Well, now you just doubled down, right? So you felt like junk to begin with. Now you added not sticking to your goal on top of it. And that can snowball to repeat the entire process. And so when you have that emotional awareness, you can kind of sometimes step back, sometimes, to reflect and understand that, like, that quick fix isn't going to fix anything. It's going to make things worse. You got to sit with your feelings.
Absolutely. That was one of my bullet points actually, was with emotional awareness, kind of learn to sit with those feelings,
Mhm.
understand those feelings. So that was literally bullet point one for me. So that's awesome that you brought that up. You can also, begin to understand that all feelings are kind of nuanced as well, and they come in different flavors and sizes as well. So, getting maybe a last call out at a show might hurt more than maybe cheating on your diet. So certain challenges present differently and are sometimes harder to get through. If
Yeah.
you've binged a couple times, likely you and your coach have had great conversations about how to handle that emotion, how to handle, not letting that happen again. And you become better at dealing with those things as long as you sit with them and think about them for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple points that I want to bring up with that, because you're absolutely right. Like, emotions are, they're a range, right? So there's a children's book. I believe it's called Feelings Are Visitors, right? And so the idea behind it is that no feeling is a state of permanence, even though it might feel like it's permanent in the moment. Feelings come and go, right? So, we welcome them. We say, hey, all right, come into my life, even if it's the one that you don't really want to deal with, but knowing that one day that feeling is going to leave. So if you're sad, sad's not forever, even though sad might feel forever. It's not, it's a visitor, it's a temporary state. No matter how much it might feel like it's just a mountain you can't climb. um, and then the other point that I want to bring up with the whole, like, philosophy of sitting with your feelings, right? Because I think a lot of people sometimes will be like, well, what does that even mean, right? What does it mean to sit with my feelings? um, and so a lot of the times I'll say, like, leave space for your feelings, right? Like, it's something that you have to coexist with. Um, and I see that sometimes people, even myself, because I am one of those people that just talking all the time, as our listeners, I'm sure, know by now, but you can fall into the trap of trying to intellectualize your feelings, or, rationalize them, right? And that doesn't always equate to sitting with your feelings, because sometimes that's a way to, again, skirt around the issue and not necessarily just let it be what it is. It can help give you some closure and some peace sometimes, but um I mean, at the end of the day, you got to just let that feeling be what it is until it goes away. Like, an example that I like to use just on that front of, like, rationalizing feelings. I'm sure at some point, most of us have, like, at least one ex-boyfriend or girlfriend, or, somebody in our life, even a friend, that, we look back at the way that maybe we acted in a situation or something, and we're like, ooh, I don't like that. Right. And you have kind of negative feelings associated with it, and you reflect, right? And you go, why did I do that? You kind of think about it. But no matter how you think about it, no matter how much you understand it, it doesn't take away that feeling of, like, oof, And so you kind of have to just sit with that and let it be what it is, and just embrace that. You kind of have to, it kind of goes back to that whole philosophy of prep of embrace the suck. That goes to feelings too. You got to embrace the ones you don't like and get comfortable with them, because they're still part of the range of emotions that you're going to feel throughout life, and running from them isn't going to make it feel any better or change it. So sit with it. That's what that means.
I'm glad you said that because we're kind of misinformed by society that like emotions are a bad thing. So
Yep.
like people saying like, "Hey, don't be sad." And it's like, no, it's actually okay to be sad. It's not really something to avoid,
Yeah,
because
it's pretty
having that
neutral.
time of sadness can help you recollect and do it differently next time. So absolutely. I think too, you need to embrace like the compassionate advocate inside of you, and eventually, that person inside of you that has all of your best interests. We all do this at time. We sometimes think about responding to that negative Instagram comment in like a bad way. It just heightens the whole feed. But, give yourself like a gentle, loving approach on, what could the forks in the road, the outcome of this be if I respond with, sentence A, which is like the negative one and the one that like bashes the person back, or, maybe B, which, is going to allow you to still love yourself, and, looking for ways that you can live into your own values without, typically most of us aren't people that would go out of our way to say something negative about somebody. So the
Yeah.
fact that someone said something negative to you, don't let that like break your values on how you treat that person. Likely that person might need more help than you even realize. So
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
responding to
That's
that negatively either gets them what they want, or, doesn't get them the help they need.
right. And I mean, that's another good point with like the whole emotional awareness thing is that, I think it kind of can help us understand other people as well, because, something that I remind friends and family and even clients, when they come to me with situations like that, people's reactions are always more about them than it is about you. And that can kind of help you to put things into perspective and try not to take it so personally, even if you do kind of get triggered in a way. Understanding that they got their issues, like, and again, emotional awareness is different for everybody. Some people are really strong in identifying and, understanding emotions of themselves and other people, they're still learning, and so, um, just knowing that like their problem is their problem and your problems are your problem. And, their perspective doesn't necessarily have much to do with you as it does to do with like their traumas and their perspectives and experiences. And that's how we learn to communicate and react. And so some people don't react in the best way.
Absolutely. Yeah, the mind and the body are so connected to like, what we think influences our whole physiology.
Oh yeah.
So, optimistic thoughts can definitely, you know, help you effectively move through this process too. Pessimistic thoughts, on the other hand, kind of create a sense of not improving, or just this rigidity and structure that you can't break. And thoughts are very habit forming too, so that's a big piece in, putting all this together. And that's where exercise, I think, really comes into play. I'm not sure if any of you have ever hit moments where you just stop going to the gym. You just kind of hit a depression, or if you just stop exercising, I should say, you tend to think more pessimistically versus optimistically. And that exercise, and that's kind of why I like breaking up cardio. It gives people more endorphins, like, or, short bursts. Because when you do like 20 minutes of cardio, you feel good, but only for a certain amount of time. If you do another 10 or 15 down the road, it'll give you another, you know, um, set of endorphins to kind of go through your body and get you feeling good.
Yeah, absolutely. And then to kind of go back a little bit to the whole pessimistic thoughts thing, something that my psych actually said to me yesterday, um, there's a difference between feeling discouraged and feeling hopeless. It's okay to feel discouraged. That's part of life. But still having that little shred of hope is entirely different, right? And we're going to have those moments sometimes where you don't feel great and you feel kind of hopeless. But it's a fine line. Like, obviously, you don't want to get into like the toxic positivity thing, but you also don't want to just be like, everything is terrible and nothing's ever going to get better, because you can't predict the future. And that is very like all or nothing thinking. That's a trap. We don't want to get into that. Um, but it's it's that fine line. Don't put yourself in a corner where you really feel like that's it. It's an all or nothing, black and white thinking. We don't want to do that. You want to realize that there is a gray area in life, and embrace the gray area. When you can't embrace, being happy or being positive, or it just doesn't, it's just not there for you. Okay, cool. Live in the gray area. There's nothing wrong with living in the gray area. Um, and then, I mean, in regards to like the whole exercise thing, absolutely powerful tool for being able to, make yourself feel better, even if it doesn't really work that well. Like, do something, move a little, go through the motions. Really having routine in those moments where you don't feel great. Can help so much. I mean, we've talked about it before when we were talking about post-show blues, right? Routine is one of the ways to kind of help yourself get out of that. So when in doubt, default back to routine. Great tool to use to just kind of get yourself back in more of a sense of normalcy.
Mhm. Routine's huge too, and your routine doesn't have to be like your favorite influencer. You don't have to get up and do your cardio in the morning. It's not going to be any more effective if you do it in the morning than you do in the afternoon. I maybe wouldn't recommend doing it before bed, because then your heart rate's going to be risen. But your routine could be getting up and doing laundry or something super simple. It doesn't even have to be anything that you necessarily like to do. But honestly, me, part of getting up while I'm making coffee is just kind of getting some things organized. I actually sometimes sweep my office, because just like having that clean workspace seems to keep me less distracted. So that's not going to be the case for everyone. That might make the light bulb go off for some people, but that's just an example of the thousands of different ways you could start your day and start your schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like if you know yourself, you kind of know, or you start to learn like what works for you, what starts the day off on a better foot. For me, I am just I have to veg out for a while in the mornings. It takes a while for my brain and body to just like wake up, and so literally that's just eat my breakfast, drink my coffee, like watch a couple YouTube videos, and then, get ready to work. So
Yeah.
that's going to look different for everybody. For some people, it's going to be better to like roll out of bed and be productive. And other people like me, it's like, okay, we're awake, but we're not.
Yeah. I always joke, like, because I'm that way myself. I'm just slow moving in the morning. It takes me a minute. I don't know why criminals don't do this stuff in the morning, because I'd be the last person to react to anything. But at
Yeah.
night, I'm like on it because I'm more awake and like ready. So
Right. Exactly. Don't give them ideas though, Adam.
I know, right?
Hopefully we don't have any like criminal listeners. And if you are, like, please don't come for me or Adam. Just,
Yeah, I live in Arizona. If anyone wants to know where I
right?
live.
Yeah, for sure.
Watch me get an influx of inquiries from Arizona. I had no idea you
Yeah.
lived here.
Uh-huh.
It's because I don't.
That's funny.
But I think that we covered this really well.
Yeah.
Just practicing mindfulness and paying attention to the present moment, allowing yourself to sit with it, and you know, don't stay in the this sucks or I don't want to
Yeah.
thoughts too much, and try to embrace that internal coach inside of yourself that can be a voice of Kat or Zach or me or Anna or Roseanne. Any of our coaches, they're going to tell you that you can do this, and responds to you in the appropriate way, positive way that you should be responded to.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a reminder, as we all say, but it's one thing to embrace, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that applies to emotions as well. So don't try to fix it, just let it be what it is.
And that is why our team is more than just macros.
Yes.
So, as a little plug at the end here, tell us about your life coaching that also can go along as an addition with See You Later, Leaner. As you as no check-ins are more than just macros. We talk about these things on an individual level, but sometimes people need more help with that. So Kat has actually offered a program within our See You Later Leaner team that I thought would now be a great time to announce that.
Yeah. So currently, right now, I'm offering more conversational casual life coaching. In the future, there will be more curriculum based sessions. But for now, just because I don't want to overload anybody with more work, I think we're all busy enough. And, even a worksheet or activities can be a little much. So currently, I'm offering different packages of 40-minute sessions where clients one-on-one will meet with me, and we talk about whatever goal they may have had when I do their intake session, or if they just want it to be more of a casual, like, this is what I want to talk about today. It gives them the space to do that. It's not necessarily therapy, because obviously I'm not a licensed therapist. Despite the counseling degree, there's different certifications that go along with that, that are a lot more involved. But I can serve as a kind of a sounding board, right? Help people process things that are going on in their life, give them a little feedback, different coping skills that we can try, just to be able to give people the safe space to be able to process things that maybe they don't, have the time to slow down and process, or, get a different perspective on things to help them really feel comfortable in who they are, comfortable in the pursuit of their goals, or whatever, may be going on. So lots of different needs being met there, whether it is emotional awareness, like we talked about today, or, how to like pursue your goals, just aligning your values with your actions, all kinds of stuff, all the emotional, mental stuff that can go along with one's fitness journey, or just needing a little unconditional positive regard in your life, because we can definitely all use that.
Absolutely. I think this is a great time to have that too, because even though, you know, a lot of the shutdowns are done with COVID, I still think a lot of people are still feel a little bit caged in and really need sometimes that extra communication, which is never a bad thing. So we're happy that you're offering that. And we will see you guys next week on the next Mind Over Matter podcast.
Bye, guys.